news story of the day. The London Mayor Sadiq Khan has set up a new group looking at whether to decriminalise cannabis.
I can't stand Sadiq Khan, but finally he's done something right. So the Mayor of London is embarking on a tour of America to basically discover what cannabis legalisation looks like in practice. But let's see what this tit, Mark Dolan, that's the guy in the suit, who I also can't stand, and I suspect you'll find out why in a few minutes. Let's see what he has to say about the matter, shall we?
Mr. Khan described his visit this week to a cannabis dispensary in the US state of California as fascinating. Well, he probably found it was far out. It was probably mind-blowing for the mayor.
You'll notice this is his attempt at trying to be funny. I didn't laugh. I expect you didn't laugh either. No charisma, no personality. You can tell the guy's reading from an autocue. I and plenty of other creators speak every day on YouTube freely from their fucking mind. Gimps like him sit in their little suits, spouting the opinions of their fucking executives who read it on an autocue. And that's why when it comes to humour, like he just tried to have an attempt out there, it falls flat because he's reading it from an autocue. Whenever something's funny, it comes in your head and you say it, people can tell right away that you've just come up with that. But there and I, with that little name, I bet he thought it was far out. I bet they laughed at that in the little board meeting that morning when they're writing it down.
So is cannabis a harmless bit of fun, a relaxing pastime, no different to having a pint or a cup of tea? Or is it the first rung on the ladder to addiction, crime and a disordered society? And with the potential income a change in the law could bring, could this act as the green levy that we need?
Why does he insist on talking like a fucking children's TV presenter that we need? The entire remit, I think, or the idea of GBNews, I believe, judging by their other presenters and what they say, is to engage with the audience and the public in a way that is not patronising the way the rest of the mainstream media speak to us. So this little clown has completely went against what his employers actually hired him to do, because he's not fucking there to speak to us like Mr. Tumble. And for those of you who don't know who Mr. Tumble is, he's this. And I'd sooner listen to that clown than this clown. So to fast forward, he brings on these two guests. One of them is a host of a radio show in America. The other is a kid who wants to run a campaign against the legalisation of cannabis. I bet he had a lot of friends in school.
Should we legalise cannabis, do you think?
Of course we should legalize cannabis. In fact, what's taking you guys so long to get to the party? We've got over almost half the states now are legal. There's no reason to have cannabis illegal. It's rather benign. It's people use it all the time. It's been around for centuries. Of course it should be legal. Well, why wouldn't it be? It's no different from alcohol consumption or anything else. In fact, I would argue that alcohol consumption is far worse. There's more deaths attributed to alcohol than all other drugs combined. That is a fact.
It is a fact. I actually don't know why he said I would argue, because you don't need to argue it, man. It is a fact. This is the problem that these idiots who try and campaign against the inevitability of the legalisation of cannabis, this is the wall they always run into, is they fail to understand that it is inevitable. There is no real argument in terms of the alcohol and weed comparison anyway. Alcohol, in terms of drugs, is the number one killer by a mile. Weed has killed 0 people. And that's a cliche by this point because it's often repeated, but it is true. Weed has killed nobody.
However, Edward Woodson, 2 wrongs don't make a right, do they? And marijuana is another mind-altering drug.
As is coffee. I bet he had one of those this morning.
It makes people sleepy, sluggish, unambitious. We all know that stoners don't get anything done in life.
That's absolutely not true.
Do you see how speechless I am? Musicians, artists, chefs, filmmakers, writers, the amount of people, some of our favourite talents and favourite works, the sweeping statement that absolute fucking tit in the boob just made there. We all know stoners getting anything done. Who the fuck's we? You know, it's ironic that people say cannabis causes schizophrenia. Does this guy have it? Because who the fuck's we? Who's he speaking about? The voices in his head? Who the fuck? What poll did he take? Did he go and ask the public in a little study to see if we all thought that? Because maybe we all thought that in the fucking 80s. But who the hell thinks that now? With the amount of clear evidence and the amount of artists, like I said, who are very open about the fact that they smoke cannabis, and just does it hold them back? Fucking absolute moron.
If you're lazy and you are a laggard before you smoke marijuana, then you will be one afterwards. If you're a motivated person, if you're an intellectual or a business person or whatever it is you do in life, you can certainly smoke marijuana. It doesn't affect your life whatsoever. So
However,
that is just a canard.
Okay, but Edward, I mean, it's still a drug. So do we want to normalise it? For example, you know, daytime use. Do you want people behind the wheel of a heavy goods vehicle, or do you want school teachers ripped to the tits on the wacky backy?
So, do you want people driving drunk?
He did it again there, did you hear that? Rip to the tits on wacky backy. Notice that not one of those guys even cracked a smile there, because it's just fake. It's just fake. Rip to the tits on wacky. Fuck up. Just get on with your little auto cue thing you've got to read and tell your crew to take out all the jokes, because they're not landing, my man. They're not landing. What I will say is that statement, do you want it normalised? Yes, we fucking do, actually. We do. What's wrong with that? You normalise, as I said before, coffee, which has effects on people. Nothing's more normal than having a cup of coffee in the morning. That's the drug. Nothing's more normal than a woman leaving the office at the end of the day saying, I'm just going to have a few glasses of wine with the girlies. That's normal, and nobody says anything about it. Nothing's more normal than someone having a cigarette. And especially, nothing's more normal than doctors overly prescribing antidepressants to people who don't fucking need them. That's normal. That's very normal. So think how many people in the workforce right now as I speak, you're out there working under the influence of antidepressants, strong antidepressants, which in fairness do say on them, do not operate heavy machinery, blah, blah, blah. How many people do you think really follow that after a while when they're still on them? So the complete hypocrisy is a fucking disgrace. It's a disgrace.
Do you want people driving drunk? School teachers drunk during the day from drinking alcohol? I mean, come on. Obviously, you regulate it, and just as you do with alcohol. There's absolutely no different. And look, let's be honest here. The war on drugs here in America has been an abject failure. We're going on 50 years now.
I'd argue the war on drugs everywhere has been a fucking failure. The war on drugs is done.
Joseph Robertson, good to have you on the show. Thanks for the 11th hour booking to contribute to this conversation. Do you think that we should
He's basically just admitted that kid, that poor kid, was just plucked out of some random Twitter page or something to contribute to this discussion. Plopped out of thin air because no doubt the last guy they had on to argue against cannabis legalization made have realised what a fucking idiotic point of view it is to have. You don't introduce your guests like that either. In a debate especially, you're not introducing by letting the audience and your opponent know that you literally are just here because you've been pulled out of fucking thin air at the last minute. That means you're a substitute. That means you're a sub. That means you're not dominant. That means you have no conviction at all in your beliefs or what you're saying. You're just here. He's just there.
Legalise cannabis in this country, Joseph?
No, I don't, because I think there's a number of differences between weed and alcohol.
Yeah, there is a difference. One kills, one doesn't. One's glorified, one's illegal.
Before we go on to health effects, we're already talking about importing a totally foreign culture into a society that is not equipped to deal with it.
Is this tool really trying to act as if British and American culture is all that different? America jumps, Britain says hi hi. It's always been the case.
And by that, I mean, how do you know if an employee is turning up at work high? It's pretty obvious if they're drunk. But we know in stoner culture, you wake up, you roll out of bed.
Stoner culture. Stoner culture. And again with the we. Who's we? Who's we know? Who's we know? Because anyone I know surely is educated enough to know that that's not what stoner culture is about. Who the fuck even comes up with these terms anyway? Here's what he clearly doesn't understand, because the kid clearly, and I'm sorry if I'm going to be presumptuous here, must not have an awful lot of life experience. I had a lot of jobs when I was younger where I was high as fuck during the job, and believe me, people fucking knew. I knew they knew, they knew I knew they knew. Sometimes they'd even tell me, managers especially. It's not exactly a fucking crazy thing, and I wasn't the only person there either who was stoned in either job. I don't know if my young man here has ever actually smoked cannabis, or even has any friends that smoke cannabis. I doubt he does. But what he would find out very quickly if he did is that you can't fucking hate it. It's very hard to hate it. When I was in college, I used to wear these on a daily basis. From my very first day there in September of that year, I remember consciously going into the class with these on and doing it and doing it and doing it. You know why? Because I was very aware that I'd be there for the next 3 years and I'd be high for most of it. So what I did very quickly and very cleverly was make sure people knew the sunglasses were firmly a part of my style, and nobody batted an eyelid after a month or so because they were like, well, Zayne's just wore his glasses. Perfect. Yeah? So I had to do that because you can tell when you're high. So what fucking planet? What's he smoking? If the eyes are windows to the soul and they're red and glassy, then I think it's pretty fucking obvious that person's soul is flying high.
But we know in stoner culture, you wake up, you roll out of bed, you roll a joint and you get your day going. And that is the reality of weed
And he's
culture.
I've also just noticed there as well, he's just blew up his own argument. You roll out of bed, you roll a joint, and you get your day going. Exactly. You get your day going. You're not rolling out of bed, rolling a joint, and going back in the bed the way the tit in the suit in the middle tries to pretend. So this guy here has literally just eradicated that argument very quickly, without even meaning to. So please keep up. Maybe go and rehearse this again before you come back on, because the two of them haven't got a fucking clue.
And that is the reality of weed culture. So
Weed culture!
you're
Stoner culture,
yourself to
weed culture, guys.
which could actually be, warping your sense of time, making you miss out.
Warping your sense of time. Have you ever been so fucking drunk that you blink and it's 6 a.m. at the party and you don't know where time went? It's just suddenly 6 a.m. That's legal.
And make you sluggish all round. How does your employer know that you're going to be having the same levels of productivity? If you go out and get drunk, it's at night time. The next day, if you're on a hangover, everyone knows about it.
That's assuming that when you're hungover, you're off work the next day. So many people go out on a work night when they have work the next day. We've all done it. And you go into work with a hangover. Does he think for a fucking second that an employer looks at somebody hungover in work and thinks they're going to be top performance today? No. The employer knows as well as the staff know that when you're hungover, you're getting very little fucking done. Yeah, you bare minimum done at the most. Whereas there's some strains of cannabis, and I actually want to come on to this point, so I'm glad I'm going to do it now. A lot of this video you'll see, nobody mentions this, and I'm going to make a point of this here. There are so many different strains of cannabis that to generalise the entire plant in 2022 is fucking idiotic. There is strains, absolutely, that will make you get out of bed, roll a joint, and go straight back to bed. Of course there is. And I think there's a time and a place for strains like that. Maybe you're watching a movie at night time. I'm not a fan of those, but I was a very heavy user of cannabis, especially towards the later years when I got older. I would go online, research to the fucking T, the difference in strains that I could buy, see what it is I'm buying, see what components are in it, what effects they have on my body, read reviews on the strain, shout out to Leafly, read the reviews, see what's going on there, see what other people have thought. Is this going to leave me locked to the sofa, or is this going to get me up and going? In fact, there's quite a new strain I became aware of. I believe it was cultivated in 2017, and that's called Mimosa. Ironically, speaking of alcohol, named after a cocktail. That replaced your morning coffee. You'd have that and you'd be ready to go to the gym. So to have these guys, not one of them, I bet my little man here doesn't even know the difference between indica and sativa. When I said before about me smoking during past jobs when I was younger, even then at fucking 18 years of age, I was smart enough to know, don't smoke this shit when you're working, smoke this shit when you're working. One will make you productive, and believe me, they do. One will make you want to go to bed. So this argument about productivity is also bullshit. Because really, like I said, try that mimosa shit. Hard to get, but if you get it, try it. You'll be wanting to do laps around the park. So if there's one takeaway I want you to keep in your head the entire way through the rest of this video, it's the word strain. The same way that a posh person with wine, I guess, would analyse the bottles and the history of it and other people's experience with it, the taste of it, everything before they make a purchase. It's the exact same thing. So to assume that all stoners are stupid enough and casual enough to just take what they're given, many are in fairness, yeah, but there's a fucking whole community out there in weed culture, as this dickhead calls it, who know different, and it would suit him also to know that.
The second thing I'd say is the comparison is always, oh, well, alcoholism is terrible, getting drunk is terrible. Yeah, but having 2 glasses of wine doesn't have that effect. Having a joint does have the same effect.
When you have a joint, you can control what you're putting in it. You can control how much you're smoking of it. If it's having a bad effect or you want to take a break, you can do that. And again, if you've actually done the research on the strain, then you'll know what you're smoking and it's fine. Having 2 glasses of wine, depend on the bottle. Once they're in your body, off you go. So, I mean, really, not a really good comparison, my little dude.
Your reaction
When's
to
the
that,
last time you smoked a joint?
Ed?
When's the last time you smoked a joint?
Well, in my case, probably 1994.
Not bad.
And I've still got a headache.
Come on. It takes away a headache. This is like ridiculous. You guys.
Do you take Ed? Do you take?
Get with the program.
Do you take the point?
Okay?
Get with the program. My man. I wish though that the kid had the answer to that question, because he was clearly asking the kid, not the guy in the middle. When was the last time you smoked a joint? And I bet it's never. I bet it is never. He's talking like he's never had in his life. So I really am a strong believer of, if you're going to preach to people about something, fucking try it yourself.
Ed, do you take the point made by our speaker there, Joseph Robertson, that it's far harder to detect marijuana use in citizens than it is to detect alcohol use. If you're near someone that's been drinking, you can smell it on their breath.
Cannabis fucking stinks. What are they talking about? There's a point where I believe it's him that says, oh, also, it smells bad. It's like, so he mentions that later on in the video, you'll see. And then here he is now, as a counter argument, being like, oh, but alcohol smells, so we'll detect that. If green smells as bad as you think it does, Mark, and we all know it fucking does, again, depending on strain, then you're gonna fucking know. When I was really heavy on it, and this might sound a bit disgusting, probably shouldn't share this, but there was points sometimes where I had no cannabis on my person whatsoever, and people would say to me, you smell like weed, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I realised it was coming through my pores, I was smoking that much of it, the same way alcohol does. So, yeah, they're both fucking the same there, they both stink. Green smells far worse. So what the fuck is his argument here? Jesus.
Well, there's mouthwash, there's gum. You know, with marijuana, there's something called Visine.
Is it just me, or does he sound identical to Jordan Peterson there? Well, there's mouthwash.
Something called Visine.
Still love him though, he's a good guy.
Look, if someone uses alcohol throughout the day, they're a dreadful alcoholic. There's a lot of people that do that. I mean, in fact,
yeah, I would also say though that being an alcoholic during the day is a sign of depression.
Than if they've smoked some weed.
Did you hear what he just said? My guy Joseph, he knows he's losing the argument, as they always do when they've no real points, and so he's reverted to just throwing buzzwords in. But I've noticed this a lot from the far left especially. Not saying he's on the left at all. They'll argue with reality, and when they notice that they're losing that argument, which is inevitable, of course they're going to lose it, they just resort to throwing random words in, like, oh, but it empowers women, or but depression, but anxiety, but BL. They'll just throw in these stupid fucking things that have no relevance to anything they're talking about. Oh, but depression, but depression what? Can cause alcoholism, or alcoholism can cause depression? I'd argue both. Certainly argue both. It swings both ways. But by fuck, it's the same with green. People smoke weed because they're depressed. Sometimes weed can make you depressed. Granted, I'm not. I want to make this clear. Probably should have said at the start of the video. I've smoked cannabis for over a decade now. I do not think for a second that weed is harmless, that there is not issues. I would love to do an actual full video on that sometime, because I don't want this to come across like I'm a cheerleader for green and that there's no negatives to it at all and that I disagree with everything these two guys are saying, because I don't. Actually, I do disagree with everything these two guys are saying, because they're talking complete fucking shit.
Joseph, aren't we ignoring a massive economic opportunity? The country is broke. The national debt is to the tune of £2.3 trillion. Couldn't we do with a few billion in the coffers by way of a tax on marijuana?
Well, what we've seen in the US and certain states is that with decriminalising marijuana use completely, comes a reduction in the capability of marijuana enjoyers to do certain jobs. They're simply not going to be operationally fit.
So we've went from being called stoners to being marijuana enjoyers.
And circumstances, and it's going to create chaos in the job market over here.
Look at my man laughing. Look at my man in America laughing. He knows what's up. He knows this little kid's talking shit. He knows.
A culture where everybody could decide to start smoking and then nobody would be fit for the job market.
Creates more jobs, doesn't it? But in all seriousness though, we have lived in a culture where alcohol is promoted, glamorized, normalized on a daily fucking basis. Alcoholism is a thing. Being addicted to cannabis is a thing, believe it or not, despite what a lot of my friends and fellow marijuana enjoyers, somebody call us, believe. I will tell you now, yes, it is possible to be addicted to cannabis, just as it is to be addicted to alcohol. Should we ban alcohol? No, because you let fucking law-abiding, tax-paying citizens, adults, make their own decisions. If they want to fuck up their life and can't get a job because they're so fucking hooked on wacky, whatever they want to call it, tough. It's their own sovereign fucking right to do that. Who the fuck's this kid to tell people what they can and can't do? No.
So I don't think we're weighing up both sides of the coin. The other argument, of course, which Ed would make...
And in terms of what Mark just said here, regarding states in America, yeah, since cannabis was legalized in Colorado, the first state to do it, I think, in 2013, the revenue they've got from that, they had to give... I believe they had to give taxes back to their citizens at the end of that year, because there's so much fucking money, they were like, take some of it back. I remember reading that years ago. So, and that's been mirrored, maybe not to that degree, but it's been mirrored in states since then. Every state in America that has followed suit since 2013, nearly 10 years later, the proof is in the fucking pudding. This man here, my dude in America, is coming to us with actual fucking points that he knows from living in America, from living in a free country that allows people to make their own decisions regarding things like guns or marijuana. So, what the fuck do these two who live in Disneyland have a clue about anything like that? So, I think they should listen instead of rehashing talking points that I've been hearing since I was in school. This kid clearly is literally sounding like teachers that used to preach to me. He is using all the same talking points, all the same little buzz phrases in his head that he has literally just read a textbook and is regurgitating. That's it. The same way the guy in the middle is reading shit from an article and regurgitating that. The only people in this video speaking any authentic, lived experience is me and the guy there. That's it.
The other argument, of course, which Ed would make, and many people would make, is that if you decriminalise, you get a better quality product, there's less psychotic, THC-ridden stuff on the black market.
You get a better quality product, he's saying, if it's legalised. This is him trying to put himself in our shoes. He's trying to almost guess what Edward here is going to say in response to him. And in doing so, he's again failed miserably. So his point is that we may believe that by legalising, we're going to get a better quality product because there'll be less THC in it. Anyone at all watching this video who has any even fleeting interest in marijuana knows rightly how fucking ridiculous that statement is. That's like saying that a fat person's going to have a better chance of losing weight by eating at McDonald's instead of preparing their own food. That's literally the same thing. We want more THC, not less. Fucking idiot. You can really tell, can't you? You can really tell that this little boy was just plucked out of randomness to be here in this program. You can tell he's a last minute appointment, can't you? Yeah, poor guy. I genuinely do feel sorry for him because it must be fucking daunting.
You've seen in states where it's been decriminalised that the underground market carries on because it's always going to be cheaper than the farmer grade weed that is produced and tariffed by the government.
It's also going to be better. And yeah, I agree with him. He's right about that. He's right about one thing, and that is that when cannabis is legalised here, me and many other people will continue to get our product from nefarious sources. Why? Because why the fuck should I pay more taxes on a product of nature to fund a state that's failing and a government that do nothing for me and anybody else? Why the hell should I engage in that? Because what he's saying there about, oh, you'll want no THC, you might want that, dweeb boy. But if it is a case that the legal shit has less THC in it and the dealers are still selling stuff that we want with larger THC, then where the fuck do you think we're going to go? So you can shove your tax marijuana up your fucking ass. Yes, I understand that's the way it's going to be when it is legal. Of course we're going to tax it, but I'm not paying it. We pay enough taxes as it is. It's the same reason why I get my tobacco from duty free. Why should I pay taxes on a natural product? No.
So I don't think it does anything except excavate the gateway access to using weed and normalising it as part of the culture.
And that's exactly what we want. So you're probably going, well, Zayne, if you're going to continue to buy your product from other sources that aren't taxed, then why do you want it legalised in the first place? He's just hit the nail on the head. For normalisation, the word they love using. I find it abhorrent that an obese person has to endure seeing McDonald's and fast food adverts plaster over the place. I know when I was on a diet and I was walking past a billboard that had, a Big Mac on it, it did something to me inside where you felt, yourself being questioned, physically challenged and called toward it. I imagine that's even harder for an alcoholic who sees the countless alcohol brands advertising all over the place. He has to walk underneath a billboard with a giant Smirnoff bottle across it. Do we shield those people from reality? Do we shield those people from it? Do we shield the rest of society from a product because certain groups can't handle it? And that's no disrespect to alcoholics or obesity. Like I said, there is some people who will struggle with cannabis, but what, should it be illegal for everybody then because of that? Yeah, we do want normalisation. That's exactly what we want. Because in the same way I said before, that someone can leave the office at the end of the day and say, I'm just going home to have a few glasses of wine with the girlies, and nobody bats an eyelid. If I was to turn around and say, I'm just going home and have a few bongs with the boys, crazy. You would be called in the all sorts of fucking meeting if you said in the same gleeful way that many people bounce out of the office talking about how fucked they're going to get in the weekend and how drunk they're going to get and all this shit. That's all fine. But if somebody was having a joint and said it, bit of a different story. So yeah, if legalisation brings around normalisation, then yeah, that's why I want to legalise. It won't make a difference to where I get mine from. It won't make a difference to how much I smoke. But it will make a difference in the hypocritical attitudes of dickheads like these two.
Joseph Robertson.
You have no proof whatsoever. What you're saying is your opinion. I want you to cite statistics of what you just said. You're just pulling that out of your hat. You don't have any idea what you're talking about. No, seriously.
I mean, Vox ran
What are
an
you
op-ed on
talking
it,
about?
dude. So
Joseph, do you care to back up your claims?
Of course he can.
yeah,
No, he
just saying,
can't.
Vox ran an op-ed on exactly the same piece that Ed's talking about.
Fox ran an op-ed, is what he just said. So his evidence to back up his opinion is someone else's opinion. Okay.
In states where it's been decriminalized,
What
the
states?
underground
Give me
market
some
for weed
facts.
has continued
Give
and
me
even
facts.
risen in proportion.
Good. I'm glad. That just backed up what I just said there. People are doing that already then. If that's true what he just said, that in some states in America, the black market has actually risen since it became legal, people are thinking like I'm thinking, and they're not going to pay taxes to a government just because they've decided to finally let them have their greed and fucking legalise a plant. So I'm so glad to hear that. For once in this entire video, I'm pleased to hear him talk. Taxes over a plant. How dare they go through years and years and years of ruining people's lives, taking away opportunities from people over possession of a plant, and then finally they decide, oh actually yeah, you guys were right all along. Oh, but we want to tax you for it. Go fuck yourself.
Edward, which US state are you based in?
I am in Miami, Florida, the free state.
Is the consumption of cannabis and the purchase of it legal in Florida?
Why has he not researched this? The little dick in the suit. He has a whole team behind him. Researchers, crew, himself, who could have researched the most basic thing. One, what state his guest is from. And more importantly, whether or not Florida has legalized marijuana or not. How incompetent is this guy? It explains so much of this video already. The fact that his researchers are clearly null and void, clearly don't exist, explains so much of the bullshit he spoke already in this video, doesn't it?
California, which I think has completely decriminalized marijuana.
Well, actually, no, it's completely legal. So
Right.
there are many states wherein recreational marijuana is legal. So it's just like getting cigarettes or getting your pint of Guinness.
And what has been the real world experience in California of this liberal policy, Edward?
It's billions of dollars in revenue. And look, let's be honest here. Conservatives should get behind this. This is a conservative issue. It's all about freedom of choice and the individual rights of people.
It is. It absolutely is. With what I just said there, it's a plant. Whether you want to take the route of saying it was given to us by God, whether you want to take the route of saying that nature itself, the universe, all the atoms came together and created this beautiful enhancing plant. Whatever way you want to look at it, it is natural. In what conservatives' mind does the government have the right to dictate whether or not a flower, essentially, should fucking grow, where it can grow, and whether or not you should fucking touch it or smoke it or smell? What right do they have? So he's absolutely so correct. It is definitely a conservative issue and something you would think conservatives would want to be on board with. I think this guy here is from some sort of conservative group. You wouldn't think it, would you?
That's what this is all about. And why should the government be involved in the decision of an adult to have a pint or a joint or what have you?
This guy is just phenomenal. The points he's hitting, it is every adult's sovereign right as to what they put in their body or don't put in their body, whether it's about cannabis or the big V word that we're not allowed to mention.
It impinges upon your life or your job or your performance, and you'll be fired for that.
Joseph Robertson, we are losing the war on drugs. Get with the program.
It's the first correct thing he said all fucking video, isn't it?
Would you leave a parent in charge with a young child when they're high all day long? Simple question, Ed.
Would you leave a child with a parent that drinks all day long? Simple question.
No, because they're an alcoholic. You didn't answer my question.
Okay, there you go. They're an alcoholic. So there's drug dealers, there's drug addicts, there's alcoholics. I mean, that's a silly question. Obviously, the question is
No, there's drug users. All drug users cannot care for a child. Not everyone who drinks alcohol is an alcoholic.
All drug users cannot care for a child. He thinks then that anyone who has a cup of coffee in the morning can't care for a child. The amount of teachers who start their day with a cup of coffee can't care for a child. He also, by that stupid logic, thinks that all those people who are overprescribed medication they don't need, antidepressants being one of them, can't care for a child. The amount of parents who are on antidepressants and need them to function can't care for a child. What the fuck is this tit talking about?
Well, not everyone that uses drugs is a drug addict either.
No, but
Same thing.
Edward,
You have
Edward,
no idea what
marijuana
you're
smokers.
talking about, with all
Edward,
due
to me,
respect.
Look at him laughing like a big goon just because his daddy in the middle's bounced in to help him. Like, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Answer the man's question. Back up your point with statistics that aren't from a fucking opinion piece. and maybe go get somewhere, but you can't. So you're laughing because Mark's jumped in to help you. It's so sad.
Parallel with alcohol, marijuana smokers very often don't wait until 7 or 8 in the evening to light up a giant doobie.
How do you know?
Yeah, they do. And again, it comes down to strain. Yeah, there's some strains that will absolutely enable you to do your day-to-day shit. There's other strains that if you don't wait till the evening to smoke, then you're going to have a very hard time.
What do you mean?
I've lived with stoners, Edward. I've lived with stoners.
You'd have to be stoned to live with him, wouldn't you?
Well, that's been my experience.
This is a ridiculous analogy, honestly.
Let's bring our panel in, if I may, gentlemen. We have Kulveer Ranger.
This is where it gets fun. Watch this.
Should we decriminalise marijuana in the UK? Edward would argue it's just the same as having a cold beer after work.
No, I don't agree with Edward at all. I don't. But
Before we even go any further, does anyone know who that woman is or give a fuck? Let's get some fucking random footballers, waves, glamour model, wannabe, TV personality on to talk about marijuana and drug policy. Don't know who the fuck thought that was a good idea, but here we are.
I do think for medical benefits, we should legalise it.
No.
Because
No, that's a cop-out that they love to use. People who say things like we should legalise cannabis on the basis of medical reasoning, they're doing it because they're afraid of the argument that's going to come back to them, which always comes back to them, which is, and it's a bit of a cliche at this point, it helps cancer patients or it helps MS patients and so forth. So that argument's always used. And what she's doing by saying that it should just be for medical reasoning is trying to shield herself from any sort of criticism from those people. From people who have legitimate arguments to make about the fact that medicinal use has its purposes in society. Fair enough. However, if you're going to legalise a plant for medical use, then you're acknowledging that it really is not dangerous after all, is it? What right do the government have to dictate how, when, and if we use a plant? What right does this fucking bimbo have to make a call either? Those people maybe 5-10 years ago would have had me as a bit of a supporter. Oh, the medicinal use, I mean, it's a foot in the door. If we get medicinal use, then we're going to get somewhere eventually. I think the minute that you go down the route of legalising only for medicinal use, especially in the UK, then that's probably the way it will stay. And you'll set back the movement another 50 years. Because then it's just for medical use. Don't think so. All or nothing. It's as simple as that. If it's good enough for somebody dying with a terminal illness and not harmful enough to keep it away from somebody who is literally fucking dying where their immune system is shutting down, if it's not harmful enough to keep away from them, then why the fuck should a fully functional, healthy adult not smoke it?
aches and pains like arthritis, MS sufferers, even cancer.
Even cancer! See, the way you can tell she's in her head, she's obviously read it somewhere, BuzzFeed maybe, and she thinks to herself, whoa, only I know this. This is going to blow everyone's mind. We've all known that green substantially helps cancer patients for a very, very long time now. Francine, it's not exactly anything mind-blowing.
I think we should legalise cannabis for those reasons. But I do not think for recreational enjoyment it should be legalised. I really, really don't.
Imagine being the kind of person that thinks that enjoyment should be made illegal.
Because, you know, I know stoneheads as well, who, like you said, can start from the morning.
She knows of stoneheads. These morons are really, really, really showing their age, aren't they? I bet she thinks she's cooling down with the kids and all, and I post bollocks on Instagram, whoever the fuck she is. I bet you she thinks she has like a young following. She just used the word stoneheads. Have any of you ever heard that word used to describe somebody who smokes pot? Ever? I have never in my life.
And they can't concentrate properly. They're not with it. You know, it can cause paranoia.
You're not with it, love. Stoneheads. And also, I'll repeat it again, it comes down to strain. Certain strains make you concentrate more. Certain strains make you more productive. It's not that hard to understand. Somebody needs to fucking just say the word strain to these idiots.
Also, is it a gateway to other drug taking? That would be my concern. I mean, I think...
Would that be your concern? That's her concern? Again, not one of us asked her concern, but that would be her concern, is that it's a gateway. It's not actually your concern either, Francine. It's the concern of textbooks again. It's the concern of teachers. It's the concern of people who don't have a fucking clue, who are reading books that were written in the 60s. It's the concerns of those people. Is it a gateway? Alcohol is the biggest gateway drug on the planet. Do you think anyone sitting at a party with a joint in their hand is going to suddenly take a line of coke? Do you? If you do, you've never met a stoner in your life. Now, do you think somebody pissed from drinking will be at a party, and if someone offers them a line, they might not take it. It's a very slippery slope. So if you want to talk about gateway, which they love doing, and I don't know why either, they love bringing up the word gateway, not realising that it just gives people like me and Ed here and anyone else a golf club to fucking knock their point out of the park. It is so stupid. You want to mention gateway? We'll talk about gateways, yeah? We'll talk about alcohol then, the number one gateway drug in the world. So why even bring it up when you know that's what's going to happen? You're on a slope and you want us to just push it in it? Let's do it then, Francine fucking moron.
Maybe if we ban smoking altogether, would people be smoking cannabis? I don't know, but...
This little mini Hitler's just on one, isn't she? Ban smoking as well. It's been tried in New Zealand. I think New Zealand are going ahead with that, aren't they? Nobody in New Zealand will ever be allowed to buy cigarettes again if they're born after a certain year. The leader of New Zealand, despite how lauded she is in the press, is a fucking tin pot dictator as well. And clearly this random footballer's raised wannabe thinks the same. So not only should we keep green illegal, but we should ban cigarettes as well now. What a fucking sad little place her mind must be. Also, does she think that the only way to take cannabis is through smoking? Someone let these fucking boomer idiots step into 2022. Honest to God. Pills, edibles, vapes, it is endless.
Personally, I agree with Joseph. I don't think we should legalise it for enjoyment, only for medical benefits.
But Lord Taylor of Warwick, I'm concerned that our cops are wasting too much time trying to track down people who are buying or selling marijuana when there are far worse crimes happening on Britain's streets.
For recreation, I will always say nope to dope.
Have you noticed how they all have these stupid, cringeworthy little jokes they want to get in? This guy, I will always say nope to dope. They are literally regurgitating things they heard from textbooks or from posters on their school corridor. That is, their education to the subject has never expanded anywhere beyond the corridors of secondary school. We have yet another minion of their narrative coming on to tell us that he should say nope to dope. And I bet he thought that would get a laugh as well.
I was a barrister and a judge for a number of...
But look, not one person laughed. They're all sitting stone-faced. No pun intended.
Cannabis, which is Class B, gateway to Class A drugs, including cocaine and heroin.
I'll just make the point again. Have you ever been at a party, stoned, and suddenly reached for a teaspoon to take heroin? Or suddenly decided you wanted a key of coke? Have you done it when you're drunk? I don't know about the heroin thing, but maybe...
Indeed, I had to sentence someone to prison who fell asleep whilst driving high on cannabis, and he smashed into a car and caused serious injury. That is not permissible.
How many times has he put people in jail for causing the same incident by being behind the wheel drunk? Every one of their arguments can just be flicked. It can be flicked. They're all just little tic-tacs that can be flicked. Not one of these people have a ground or a leg to stand on in anything they're saying, because everything they bring up, it's like a shovel. All their points just keep digging in a little hole that leads nowhere. It just leads back to the fact that alcohol is legal. They all support that. You notice how the fucking idiot as well, that woman, didn't say we should make alcohol legal. It was we should make smoking illegal, because I'm sure, like most, she enjoys a glass of red when she goes home. So it's all about their own self-interest, isn't it? How about you do your thing, we'll do yours, and fuck off.
And this cannabis, it's not like the 1960s, hippie cannabis, that the hippies used. We're talking about skunk, which causes paranoia, aggression, and severe addiction. This is a complete con from this guy from Florida. He's a dangerous man. Maybe he's high already, I don't know. But it's total nonsense. Recreation.
How dare he, for a start, just accuse Ed of being high already and call him a dangerous man on live TV? That is absolutely reprehensible. What a smug little bastard. In fairness though, my mum probably is high, because I don't think I'd have took that as chill as he just did. Secondly, good. I'm glad I'm born in an age where I'm not smoking the hippie shit from the 60s. That was another thing, by the way. He's just, again, regurgitated something that I heard in school, because they all sing from the same hymn sheet. They don't do any critical thinking on any of this. Green's getting stronger. Wonderful. Why would you want to regress? It's progress. Would you want a car that you buy today to be better or as shit as it was in the 60s? Exactly. Don't undermine fucking progress in the name of your own little misguided agenda. It's skunk. Skunk. What a fucking 2000s term. Go back 2 decades, you fucking loser. Skunk.
The genie is out of... Edward, I'll come back to you in a moment. I'm glad you're enjoying the conversation. But Corvir, the genie is out of the lamp.
Personal experience, as you said, Mark, saw friends at a young age at university who were heavy users of cannabis, and I saw the impact at that crucial point in their lives on their forward career abilities that haven't been fully developed.
You know what? Honestly, I agree with that. That's probably the first point that's been made by anyone on the opposite side of this that actually really resonates. Your frontal cortex, which is obviously not developed until you're 25, is so hindered by smoking marijuana at a young age, it can really fucking throw you off track a little bit. Really wouldn't hurt when it is legal to make that very clear to people, especially young guys, to make that very clear to them. At least issue guidance on that this isn't developed yet. It will be one day. If you want to smoke, do it in moderation. If you want to smoke a lot, maybe do it when you're 25 or over. Just like cigarettes and alcohol, what a good song. When they're legal, you need to be a certain age to buy them. So yeah, the same should apply for cannabis. And I actually would argue that the legal age to buy cannabis should be 25, because it makes people think then. So the man has a point. Let's see if he fucks it up.
And also, as Francine said, the gateway to other drugs, I saw that.
And he fucked it up.
I think it's hugely dangerous. I think decriminalisation and legalisation are two different topics. We have to look at that. But I don't believe, we, unlike in the States, are in a similar place on the war on drugs. Drugs are proliferating. We do need to keep a track on what's going on. But we're not like the States.
Joseph Robertson, I'll give you the last word.
Of course, you'll give the last word to Mr. 11th hour.
The culture of this country. Britain is not as such a marijuana smoking country en masse. We drink tea, we like a pint, and that's about as far as it goes in terms of our favourite stimulant.
That's about as far as it goes, apparently. Go to a house party, go to any park, go to any of the thousands of council estates up and down Britain. Walk down a fucking city centre and you'll smell it. It is the #1 drug used in Britain besides alcohol. So, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about here. He's clearly just pulled that from his ass too.
I'm just wondering, Edward, whether we really want Britain to become a country dominated by marijuana use. For one thing, it smells awful.
So remember earlier on in the video when he says, how would you know if somebody's stoned in work? Make that make sense. If it smells awful, then how the fuck do you say what you said 10 minutes ago regarding how you wouldn't be able to understand if somebody's smoking because you can only smell alcohol? Tripping up over his own bullshit right now. It's so obvious. Also, does the smell of something really mean that people should be going to jail for smoking it? Or because little Mark Dolan doesn't like the smell of a flower, should that really result in it being illegal?
I really can't comment on the culture of England because I'm an American. So I really don't know. But I have to say, going back to what you guys are talking about, gateway, the biggest gateway drug is alcohol. Okay, when people smoke weed,
what's this tit laughing for?
they usually have some cookies and milk and go to bed.
What's the tit judge laughing for? The guy who has apparently put somebody in jail for causing a car crash while he's stoned. Why is he laughing at Edward making a very rational point about alcohol being a gateway drug? Why is that a laughing matter? Smug bastard.
And that's a fact. There are more deaths with alcohol than all drugs combined. And that is a fact.
Joseph Robertson, last word on this. Do you think that decriminalisation, legalisation of marijuana is now inevitable?
No, I don't think it's inevitable because I think you can't.
I'm not listening anymore of that. It's my show. I don't give a fuck. He doesn't get the last word of my show. It is inevitable. The audacity of children like that to sit there so naively and think that it's not inevitable after the years and years of progress. They're on the wrong side of history. We all look back on this and we will laugh at how stupid these people are if we're not already. What I'm saying is this: the way these people think that the government or them have the right to tell anyone what they can and can't do with their own body and with something that comes from nature flies in the face of everything that this channel and I stand for. They haven't got the first fucking iota of a clue what the word sovereignty means. I'll just say it with this. I was walking home the other night late in the evening and I could cut through this park to get home quicker, but it was closed and the gate said on it, this park shuts at 9 p.m. Now here we are coming into the summer. It's still bright outside and I just turned to my friend and thought, who the fuck at one point in history decided we should close all parks at 9 p.m? Now, it wasn't a kids park or anything, it's just a natural nature park. It isn't manned. The only time it's manned is when they go and close it. It's someone's job to close that park at night time. Why? That is nature. The park is a form of nature. It's a bit of land that nature has given us. In the same way that cannabis is a plant that nature has given us. So what planet do these insovereign fucking maniacs live in where they think they can dictate and control how much access we as human beings have to nature, whether it be taking gifts from it, such as psychedelics or cannabis, or whether it be walking through a fucking park on a summer evening? What prison-like state do they want to live in where that's a thing? So if it isn't policing what you can and can't say, it's policing what you can and can't smoke and put in your body. Unless, of course, it's something that they just want to mandate you put in your body, then it's fine. What a fucking whirlwind. So that's it for this one. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I don't know about you, but I'm gonna fucking need to smoke after this. I'll see you next time, guys. Take care, stay sovereign. Bye bye.